Putting PlayStation games on Xbox might not be worth it, suggests former boss. Zarmina Khan is writing this article for PlayStation Lifestyle, and this is an excerpt from Shawn Layden's big interview that he did just recently with Eurogamer. In this interview, it's a very long one, man. I almost didn't even want to make this video. However, I saw this Zarmina Khan's article first. I tracked it all the way down. I gave it a look, and I thought, okay, there are a few things that need to be pointed out here. Now, it seems to me that Shawn Layden is a company man. I mean, he obviously is. He was the boss of PlayStation at one time. He has worked, with big industry firms and probably is someone that's influential. So a lot of his takes, we can look and glean knowledge from experience and also figure out what might be going on in the market. Now, I thought this was very interesting, but let's read this excerpt because it really guides us in a much more directed sense. It says, former Sony executive Shawn Layden has suggested that releasing PlayStation games on Xbox might not make sense given PlayStation's market position. During an interview with Eurogamer, Layden said that there would be a very negative reaction from the market if Sony was to follow Microsoft's footsteps. Interesting. Releasing PlayStation games on a Nintendo, a different beast than launching them on Xbox. Interesting. Layden pointed out that PlayStation has been ahead of Xbox in every generation that they've competed, including the 7th generation, which saw fierce competition between PS3 and Xbox 360, despite a series of missteps. The PS3 ultimately tied with Xbox in North America and UK while comfortably maintaining a lead elsewhere, he added. Now, those of you who are PlayStation fans, around this Xbox 360 PS3 time, I was not playing video games. My mom was on my neck to get into college, okay? So I was going to the arcades and playing my favorite soccer games, my favorite fighting games. So you guys have a lot more in terms of the history than I do. So what he said here, how true it is, you guys are going to have to teach me in the comment section. I've looked and done some research, but again, how can I glean a lot of the data when, like I said, my parents were lighting a fire in my butt to get into college? However, I want to focus on this particular conversation about PlayStation launching their games everywhere and the exception that Mr. Layden is giving them while the market is yelling and ripping Xbox apart for doing something similar. I think this is probably where the source of a lot of the entitlement comes into play. And I know Shawn Layden is somebody who I would have to sit under their tutelage in terms of corporate affairs. However, I have to point out that there's a discrepancy in his thinking in this article. And I'm going to point it out from another statement that he made in another interview where he said exclusivity is the game industry's Achilles heel. And this was something that he said in March of this year. So by December of this year, there's a whole different conversation going on. And yes, there's a little bit of nuance, but we have to basically go ahead and point out and say, okay, what the heck is going on? Now, let's go ahead and see this particular conversation, and we're going to look at it from one example. Layden reckons that negligible additional sales aren't worth the negative impact on PlayStation's brand and pointed out how fans react when PlayStation games are launched on PC. While he doesn't understand why players get upset over a first-party game launching on PC a good while later, he pointed out that the backlash would be much worse if PlayStation's games landed on arch-rival Xbox. So apparently, Mr. Layden is not really pointing out as to the profitability motives, but instead the fan reaction, in quote. Ladies and gentlemen, if this is his idea as to why this is not, anything that's viable rather than actually the motive for it, then I have to say, Mr. Layden, your comments here, PlayStation considers them throwaway. I don't consider them throwaway. The reason I say PlayStation considers them throwaway is because PlayStation finds itself in some instances where its games have gone to Xbox. Ladies and gentlemen, exhibit number 1, MLB the Show. I've followed this MLB the Show situation for the past few months. I had to take a deeper look. I wasn't really paying attention to it. I went ahead and got some MLB The Show games. I got some of my PS4 copy from my PS5. And as I was looking through the sales data, I could not find anything official. Wikipedia has some numbers that it throws here, but with no official sources except one official source when the PlayStation 5 launched. This source was Berkshire Hathaway's publication, which pretty much businesswire.com is what that publication is. In July 2021, they were singing investor wins with games that had launched on PlayStation 5. This is where we saw what I think is one of the first official sources of the sales metrics for MLB The Show. And at the time, MLB The Show had just become multi-plat. It was the first multi-plat MLB The Show game and also landed on Game Pass. Do you know what MLB The Show did at the time? MLB The Show 21 from San Diego Studios was at the time, and according to the article, I quote, is the fastest selling title in franchise history with more than 2 million copies sold across all platforms. The game has reached more than 4 million players since releasing on April 16, 2021. I have to say, because of this particular phenomenon, Mr. Layden's comments don't have anything as proof to back it up. Simple. If, say, there's another PlayStation game that made its way to Xbox, day one launch, same metrics that we can measure and see that, oh, the Xbox players didn't buy it, then I can say Mr. Layden's comments are worth the salt in this scenario. But I don't see the data following it. And trust me, ladies and gentlemen, I wish he was correct. Because believe you me, he is one person that I've cited for one of my most popular videos, and I do like listening to the things that he says. But I don't see the data, and as I've been taught, you question everything and everyone. I had professional professors that had studied years and years above me in the field that they trained me in, and even they told me, if we say BS that doesn't have data supporting it, question us. So, Mr. Layden, I'm questioning your thought process here, because you were the one who said this in an interview with VentureBeat earlier this year. You said, when your costs exceed $200 million, exclusivity is your Achilles heel. It reduces your addressable market, particularly when you're in a world of live service gaming or free to play. Another platform is just another way of opening the funnel, getting more people in. I don't know. You're the one who said this in April this year. Then how come you're talking about, the additional measly sales when we don't really have any other game other than MLB The Show to be able to give us what that scenario would actually look like? And when we got the scenario in this one instance, MLB The Show being probably compared to FIFA, compared to NBA and 2K, the lower selling of that bunch actually had its best franchise sale at the time. This is how I interpret the data. Anybody else try to interpret a different way? Sure, let me know in the comment section. So when I look at this particular article and I say to myself, that's interesting, saying that the juice is not worth the squeeze, when after this particular iteration, the success was remarkable and noticeable enough that not only did they stop there, they've released another MLB The Show game with the same parameters, and then they followed suit. So what's going on here? Is this a matter of PlayStation pride, or is this a matter of practicality, or is this a matter of both? I think it's a matter of both. PlayStation has to posture as if it's this strong, unwavering, tree, but the market doesn't care about your unwavering tree. The market can come like a storm, and man, some storms can get really, really bad, and there are some trees that may be able to weather a storm, but for the most part, if a storm is bad enough, that tree is going to be uprooted. And so I think this might be what we're looking at here in this particular situation and scenario. It's a very interesting one. Now, they said this. As for PlayStation games launching on Nintendo, Layden thinks that both platforms have historically lived happily side by side in living rooms across the world, so he doesn't foresee that move backfiring. Mr. Layden, was PlayStation and Nintendo not in some kind of an interesting console war on a corporate level a few years back? I don't know how we can just chalk that up to them living side by side. Keep in mind, he didn't use specifics like they're not competitors, because everybody knows that they are. So maybe the backlash is probably his perception of it being challenged towards Xbox because of the fans, but not necessarily the fact that profitability will drive things. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think everybody is looking at this MLB The Show thing from a broad, perspective in terms of the possibilities. MLB went to Sony and said, hey, make the game multi-plat. Sony said, sure. Why did Sony not refuse? Okay, What if the sales were so low that it was not even worth the squeeze and Sony was happy to let MLB go ahead and do it? It's almost uncanny to see how everybody else is making the decisions for these games that were once Sony exclusive games go to Xbox. Look at this. It's almost like a trend. Hideo Kojima, he gets publishing rights to his game, and then his game goes to Xbox. Really? PlayStation could have said, heck no, Death Stranding is a PlayStation game. Mr. Kojima, it's not going to go to Xbox. PlayStation did not refuse him. Interesting. Is there something very weird that's going on here, ladies and gentlemen? Ilphonic, when Predator Hunting Grounds came into play, they went to PlayStation and they said, can we get the publishing rights of our game? PlayStation could have said, heck no. The fans are going to backlash. No, they let them have the license. So what's going on here? Like I said, this is probably more of a mix of everything. They're doing things from a perspective of, okay, this may work, this may not work, this may get fans riled up, but I don't think the fans actually matter in this case. As someone who's a PlayStation player, I know that they don't care about anybody. I understand this from a fundamental level because I looked at my PlayStation and said, what are they even giving me here that's going to keep me here? I literally was on Amazon ordering my PC parts in 2016 after ordering a PS4 in 2014, 2015, I think 2015. And I was building a PC right at the height of PlayStation 4's dominance in the market because I'd already looked and seen, okay, and again, you can't blame me. I have very minimal brand loyalty in my body. I can't. These companies that everybody's over here like, oh, you got it. I don't get the time for that crap. But still, once I evaluated it, I was like, I think a PC will probably be a better, perspective for me. It'll be a better proposition. And it still is. Not saying it will be the same for you. I'm just saying. But I can tell you that PlayStation just did not seem to care. I didn't know anything about Xbox. Don't get me wrong. At the time, I would not have been able to make an assessment over Xbox. But I wasn't thinking of going from PlayStation to Xbox. Don't get it twisted. Those of you that keep saying Xbot, shut up. I didn't even consider Xbox in the running at the time. I never have, actually. The only reason you see me on this Xbox ecosystem is because I was curious. I didn't want to come out here and talk from a perspective of ignorance. That's why I said I'm going to buy an Xbox so that I can actually see this ecosystem. I can use it. I can figure out what's going on here. And I can say, okay, then I can speak from a place of experience. PlayStation has always been my main on the console side. And I think his statements are actually quite interesting at the end of the day. Who knows? Maybe he does have some, some aspect to it in terms of that. But profitability doesn't follow with what he's saying. And it's obvious from seeing that. So maybe if we see some other PlayStation games that, maybe struggling on PlayStation, maybe if we see how they do on Xbox day and date releases, like MLB The Show did, we'll be able to make a conclusion on that. But for now, I think that my point is winning because of MLB The Show. Simple. MLB The Show gets its best sales the day it goes to Xbox. Boom. That's me right there. I have something I can present. He doesn't have anything he can present. Nobody has anything they can present with the day one PlayStation game going to Xbox other than MLB The Show. So we're going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching the video, guys. Peace out.